In his farewell address, George Washington warned the nation to avoid foreign involvements, regional conflict, and political parties. Can you guess how much of his advice we followed? That's right, none of it. In the more than 200 years since Washington gave this famous speech, has intervened in the affairs of many foreign countries, fought a civil war between regional factions.
Today, the Democratic and Republican parties dominate domestic politics, and if you've been following the news recently, they can't seem to agree on anything. With government shutdowns and political smear campaigns, it might appear that our political climate today is the most polarizing in U.S. history. However, when we study our nation's past, we see that bickering and fighting between political parties is nothing new, and in fact, could even be more heated than debates today.
Ever since the signing of the Declaration of Independence, our country's leaders have argued about how best to govern and which path the United States should follow. How much power should the federal government have? Should there be a Bill of Rights added to the Constitution guaranteeing the fundamental rights of the people? How will power be shared between the different branches of government? These are some of the questions our nation's early leaders had to answer. Although we know the answers to all of these questions today, the debates on these topics were heated.
But disagreements didn't end with the drafting of the Constitution. As we can see from this Thomas Jefferson campaign poster from 1800, the partisan politics that we see all the time today is nothing new. Political parties have always been selling their candidates as the best person for the job and painting the other party as unfit to run the country. In 1800, much like today, the main issue dividing the parties was taxes. But with issue but this issue was not nearly as divisive as the United States would face in the future.
The arguments over taxation or the role of government were nothing compared to the vicious fight over the issue of slavery. By the mid-19th century, the nation had literally divided itself in half because of disagreement on slavery, and the discussions about the issue weren't always so civil. In 1855, Senator Charles Sumner of Massachusetts made a speech attacking the South for maintaining slavery, and was answered by Senator Preston Brooks of South Carolina, who literally attacked Sumner with a cane. If you thought politics today was vicious, just remember that our leaders used to beat each other on the Senate floor.
And consider this, even though there has been some talk today about states seceding because of the recent health care law and other actions taken by the Obama White House, do you think there is actually a good chance of this happening? Well, back in late 1860, the southern states of the U.S. actually started to do just this. Because of slavery and other issues such as states' rights, the first of the southern states to leave the Union, South Carolina, seceded in December of 1860, as seen in this poster from the time. As we have said before, political disagreement is nothing new, and was, in some cases, much more diverse than today's politics. But even after the Civil War ended and Union was brought back together, the disagreements did not end there.
Despite the abolition of slavery after the Civil War, people in the United States still did not agree on extending rights to all of the nation's people. Jim Crow laws existed in the South that maintained white supremacy in all aspects of society, and the right to vote was still only guaranteed to males. It was not until 1920 that women earned the right to vote with the 19th Amendment, and people were fighting to keep women out of the voting booth until the amendment passed. It may seem outrageous today that we once denied women the right to vote, but people of an earlier time did not see it as such a straightforward issue.
But even after women won the right to vote, people could still not agree on guaranteeing rights to all people. Think about this. Racial segregation existed in the United States only 50 years ago. In terms of world history, that was basically last week. Just like in the Civil War, the nation was divided over the issue of civil rights into North and South. and this debate was played out in the political arena. Politicians of the early 60s had to choose whether to address the issue of civil rights, angering Southerners, or support segregation, angering Northerners. Once again, something that today seems like common sense to us was not so clear back then, and politicians had to argue over this issue.
Our nation has come a long way from slavery in arguing over women's suffrage. It seems unlikely that any of our members of Congress would be beaten with a cane on the Senate floor today, but it does not mean that we are free of political disagreement. Today's political parties are still debating some of the issues that our early leaders faced: the size and role of government, what direction our nation should take. But there are new issues as well: illegal immigration, same-sex marriage, and affirmative action, just to name a few. The Democratic and Republican parties will continue to disagree, but remember this: our nation was founded on disagreement, and debate on political issues guarantees that the best outcome will be reached. Democracy may not be perfect, but in a democracy, everyone has a say.